Hello, Laoshi Laurince McElroy here again, in this pre-recorded series of videos, and this is part of what seems to be a series of not a series. In other words, it's another, just going to chat for a while on one topic, back in the lovely Water Tiger School office. For this one, today I thought I would address the 5 mental keys to diligent study, also known as the 5 virtues of Tai Chi. Some would consider these part of the Tai Chi classics, others not so much. But those 5 virtues are study, widen deep, investigate, ask, ponder carefully, clearly discriminate, and work perseveringly. And of course, there are various different ways to delineate those 5 those 5 mental keys to diligent study. I've seen, other phrases being used in the past. However, let's start with study, widen deep. More or less, it's sort of self-explanatory. Study with as many people as you can, get different perspectives. I mean, when I go to another instructor's workshop, seminar, something like that, I do the best I can to empty my cup as much as I can so I can absorb what it is they're teaching and focus not so much on their what, in other words, the what of what they're doing, but the why they believe that's the way it should be done. For instance, I go to somebody who has a different way of expressing the breath than I do. Perhaps I inhale at a certain point in a posture while they're exhaling at a certain point in the posture. I want to understand why that difference is there, because that challenges where my understanding is, and perhaps even changes my mind about that understanding. And deep, study as deep as possible. It's sort of what I've already said in that instance. But you may think, if you've been following this series at all, or the live sessions that we've been doing for Water Tiger School, for our Sachem Public Library and West Babylon Public Library programs, variety is the spice of Tai Chi. Tear apart what it is you're doing, change it up, do it differently, so you can better understand the underlying principles of what it is that you're doing. So that's study, widen deep. Investigate, ask. You see behind me one of 2 bookcases that are in the Water Tiger School Library. We have a broad range of topics from a broad range of authors, from different styles, different perspectives, different arts. You want to investigate as much as possible. You hear a term that you haven't heard before on the mat or in the room, look it up, or ask about it and look it up at this, to support the asking, so you can gain your own understanding. The more you find out on your own, the more that will stick with you. You can hear something and 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 hear something on the mat and in the room, and it still won't quite register, but something you discover on your own, that will stick with you. Ponder carefully. Whatever it is you find, whatever perspective to which you're exposed as you're going to a workshop somewhere or watching a YouTube video, really consider and ponder carefully what it is you have experienced, what your understanding is. Ponder the principles carefully. That's more or less the reason that we all approach these arts differently from instructor to instructor, because we all have our own perspective on what it is that we're doing. I've always loved, I can't remember the source, it was probably an article in Tai Chi magazine, it's now defunct publication, unfortunately, about how we are all in Tai Chi on a spiral staircase. So some are higher, some are lower. Some are on the right side of this, the north side of the staircase. Some of us are on the south side of the staircase. Some of us are on the west. Some of us are on the east. We may even be very close to the same level, but still slight different perspectives on that core at the center. So you really want to ponder what it is you experience carefully, the principles carefully, new postures carefully, and then clearly discriminate. One of my favorite quotes has always been, more or less, I mean, my version of it is, expose yourself to as much as possible. Keep what works for you and disregard the rest. A quote from Bruce Lee, I believe, is absorb what is useful, discard what is not. And I love the last part of this, and it's something of which I was just recently reminded, add what is uniquely yours. So you have to determine what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes what you've been doing for a while has to be completely changed. I mean, it's part of the process with me with Tai Chi. I've been doing this for 30 years, and there are aspects of the art when I garner a new understanding, a deeper layer of understanding. Remember, Tai Chi is like ogres, it has layers. That means I have to adjust certain things at certain moments and certain postures. And then that little adjustment starts to play itself through everything else that I do. And the last, in our basic interpretation, translation of the 5 mental keys of diligent study, or the 5 virtues of Tai Chi, is work perseveringly. Now, I do want to say that generally speaking, I have an issue with the use of the word work. And I love, if you know Water Tiger, if you know Laoshi Laurince McElroy, Tai Chi is a path of wisdom. And whenever I talk about using the word work, I usually make reference to this book. I thought maybe I'd read the chapter, but I think I'll just, the section of the chapter to which I always refer, but I think maybe I'll just sort of paraphrase it for you here. And that's, instead of thinking that it's a task to approach your art, to practice, to play, that's the key. That's the key. You need to explore that new movement, that new posture, that new aspect or transition in a form, not like an obstinate nail to be hammered into a board, but like a puppy who has found an unguarded slipper at night. Savor it like a fine wine. And again, these are not my words. These are Linda Mayoki-Larhop's words from Tai Chi as a Path of Wisdom. That's really what we want to do, but we want to make sure that we are doing something with our art every day, even if it's just a little bit. We want to do so with focus. I do have a couple of quotes that I want to share. One is from Marvin Smallhauser, who was the publisher of Tai Chi magazine until he passed a few years ago. And I'm going to read them just to make sure that I get them verbatim. So sorry about that, folks, but casual practice is not likely to produce more than casual results. We always say at Water Tiger School, practice, practice, practice. 3 most important words in all of Tai Chi are practice, practice, practice. However, there have been countless articles and essays and blog posts over the last few years about it's not the quantity of practice that matters, it's the quality of practice. You really have to focus, but you can still be playful. Think of a child in their play. They are so focused on what it is that they're doing. They are so in that moment, and that moment can change like that for them. They can be doing whatever their imagination is taking them to, and then they see something that flips a switch, and it just on a dime, they go in the other direction, but they're completely committed to what it is that they're doing. That's what you have to do. It can't just be a lot of practice. It has to be focused, purposeful practice for it to really be beneficial. And the other quote from Wan Yo. As evening draws near, you regret that you did not practice early in the morning. The worldly pleasure which you enjoy now becomes suffering in the future. Why then are you attached to this pleasure? One moment of practice becomes lasting pleasure. Why then do you not practice? So, in a nutshell, from Water Tiger School's perspective, those are the 5 mental keys to diligent study. Study widen deep, investigate, ask, ponder carefully, clearly discriminate, and work perseveringly. Thanks again for your time and attention. As always, if you have observations, questions, feel free to share them in the comment section to this video. Continue to be alone together. Stay at home. Flatten the curve. This too shall pass. And don't forget to wash your hands.